Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Dave, and we're back with our next reading of the Old Testament. If you've been following along with us, you know that we are in the book of Leviticus. And let me get all my reading glasses here. New King James Version today. Leviticus chapter 11. All right, let me get to that in this Bible. All right, remember, if you don't have a Bible, you can go to Bible.com and read for free. Or you can download the YouVersion app on any Android or iOS device and read for free as well. All right, 11. Food permitted and forbidden unclean animals, for a total of 47 verses. Woo, long one today. All right, I got 15 minutes to make this happen. All right, so let's go ahead and get going. Now the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the animals which you may eat among the animals that are on the earth. Among the animals, whatever divides the hoof, having clean hooves and chewing the cud, that you may eat. Nevertheless, these you may not eat among those that chew the cud, or those that have cloven hooves. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, is unclean to you. The rock's hyrax, I wonder what that is, because it chews the cud but does not have the cloven hooves, is unclean to you. The hare, because it chews the cud but does not have cloven hooves, it is unclean to you. And the swine, though it divides the hooves, having cloven hooves, yet does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Their flesh you shall not eat, and their carcasses you shall not touch, they are unclean to you. These you may eat of all that are in the water. Whatever in the water has fins and scales, whether in the sea or in the rivers, that you may eat. But all in the seas or in the rivers that do not have fins and scales, all that moves in the water, or any living thing which is in the water, they are an abomination to you. They shall be an abomination to you. You shall not eat their flesh, and you shall regard their carcasses as an abomination. Whatever in the water does not have fin or scales, that shall be an abomination to you. And these you shall regard as an abomination among the birds. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the kite, the falcon after its kind, every raven after its kind, the ostrich, the short-eared owl, the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, the little owl, the fisher owl, and the screech owl, the white owl, and the jackdaw, and the carrion vulture, the stork, the heron after its kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that creep on all fours shall be an abomination to you, yet you may eat any of the flying insects that creep on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet with which to leap on the earth. These you may eat. The locust after its kind, the destroying locust after its kind, the cricket after its kind, and the grasshopper after its kind. All other flying insects which have 4 feet shall be an abomination to you. So thankful for the release of all this in the New Testament. I forget the exact chapter. I was reading it yesterday, but anyways. Unclean animals. By these you shall become unclean. Whosoever touches the carcass of any of them shall be unclean until evening. Whoever carries part of the carcass of any of them shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. The carcass of any animal which divides the hooves, which divides the foot, but does not cloven hooved or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Everyone who touches it shall be unclean, and whatever goes on its paws among all kinds of animals that goes on all fours, those are unclean to you. Whoever touches any such carcass shall be unclean until evening. Whoever carries any such carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. It is unclean to you. These are the things that shall be unclean to you. Among the creeping things that creep on the earth, the mole, the mouse, the large lizard after its kind, the gecko, the monitor lizard, the sand reptile, the sand lizard, and the chameleon. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Whoever touches them when they are dead shall be unclean until evening. Anything on which any of them falls when they are dead shall be unclean, whether it is any item of wood or clothing or skin or sack, whatever item it is in which any work is done, it must be put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening. Then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls you shall break, and whatever is in it shall be unclean. In such a vessel any edible food upon which water falls become unclean, and any drink that may be drunk from it becomes unclean. And everything on which a part of any such carcass falls shall be unclean. Whether it is an oven or a cooking stove, it shall be broken down, for they are unclean, and it shall be unclean to you. Nevertheless, a spring or a cistern in which there is plenty of water shall be clean, but whatever touches any such carcass becomes unclean. And if any part of such carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it remains clean. But if the water is put on the seed, and if any part of such carcass falls on it, it becomes unclean to you. And if any animal which you may eat dies, he who touches its carcass shall be unclean until evening. He who eats of the carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. He also who carries the carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. My goodness. And every creeping thing that creeps on the earth shall be an abomination. It shall not be eaten. Whatever crawls on its belly, whatever goes on all fours, or whatever has many feet among all creeping things, that's like a centipede, I guess, that creep on the earth, these you shall not eat, for they are an abomination. You shall not make yourselves an abomination with any creeping thing that creeps, nor shall you make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore consecrate yourselves. You shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall you defile yourselves with any creeping things that creep on the earth, for I am the Lord who brings you up out of the land of Egypt to be your God. You shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of animals and birds and every living creature that moves in the water and every creature that creeps on the earth, to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. Whoo-wee! That is quite the list. That was some strict followings that they had to adhere to. And you can kind of understand why the religious leaders in the New Testament were mad at, I believe it was Peter, Simon Peter. They were mad at him in the New Testament for he was eating something. I forget what he was eating. I'm not a Bible scholar. He was eating something, and they're like, that's unclean. And he tells him about this vision that God gave him, and which with the sheet and like all types of animals that were on it, and where he was told that these, whatever the Lord had made on earth, that was clean for us to eat. So thankful that changed for us from the Old Testament to the New Testament. Now, there are some things in the Old Testament that have not changed and are reiterated in the New Testament. So thanks so much for watching. That was a longer chapter than normal, but hey, it was worth it, right? All right, today's Wednesday. You got 2 more days until the weekend, all right? Hang in there. You got this. From Central Texas, as always, God bless.
When life keeps falling and wonder where he is in all this mess, he's right there to guide you. Unseen, you're not alone.